I was wondering why the mayor's face was looking a little bewildered. Y'all should have seen her fall out. We're going to go ahead and bring our mayor in. Good morning. It is We Need to Know Wednesday with Mayor Wu. Just the sounds better in the hashtag. So we're not going to waste our time. It is valuable to be able to speak with our mayor on a monthly basis. She got the whole background going on. Mayor, good morning. Good to see you in the room. It's been a couple of weeks because we had to reschedule in June, but a lot to chat about. I feel that our last couple of sessions have been speed rounds, but we want to get the information out. But one thing I realized I neglected to do last time was to check in with you and ask you how you're doing. There's a lot going on, budget. We got a whole myriad of topics to talk about. So first, as I always do, except last month, how are you doing? And what you cut the hair or you did something?
Yeah, I got it cut a couple, like maybe 2 weeks ago, but
Okay.
I just let it sit today. So
Well,
earlier I was watching the chat. I was like, who's going to tell him? Who's going to tell him? Miss Jordan did. So
listen, there's a saying in our community when you look good and whatnot called your face is sitting on the floor. So if your hair is just sitting today, it's sitting. It's sitting. But how are you doing?
I'm okay. I think it's just been really intense for a lot of good reasons lately. The Celtics parade and
yes,
beautiful summer events and just a lot happening. And now it finally feels like we have this run up to July 4th where everybody's just really tense and focused on getting the budget done and planning for events and making sure everything goes safely and getting the summer started and school is out. And then after July 4th, there's usually hopefully a little bit of breath. So I'm looking forward to that.
Before you get ready to implement budgets and getting ready for school and the buses. And so we'll check in with that hopefully in August. And so Mayor, just to jump right into the business first, and I will name that there were a few months that we were able to talk about other subjects, but two that often come up here. And I actually, as I always say, when the flyer goes out, I get a lot of solicited and unsolicited suggestions to speak with you about. But I must say, as you mentioned, preparing for the 4th, there was an incident last night and it was feet away from me over here on Cedar in Washington. I spoke to Dr. Yablo this morning. He's going to make sure that the NRT team from this area pamphlets about trauma and whatnot. But I want to jump right in and just ask, I saw an article in the New York Times the other day that cited our low numbers. And in also speaking with Dr. Yablo, I did learn numbers are low, but the impact is still the same in areas where violence is an issue. And so, and I did mention the other day, and I think this, shootings may be down, but homicides going down. There is a medical consideration to be given there because medical technology is getting better. And so so if we could just speak for a couple of seconds about violence, and I was talking to Real Boston Media the other day, and it was like right after y'all made the announcement, things got, interesting. And so if you could talk to that for a second, that would be great.
Yeah. I mean, I know the Commissioner Cox and I felt extremely torn about, just even having any public conversation that can be seen
Yeah.
as taking a victory lap, when we don't feel that any violence allows us to celebrate, even if numbers are going down,
Yep.
we know that trauma is cumulative over many, sometimes generations within a community. And we know that the numbers certainly don't reset every year. And even if it's not, you know, with the goodness of God, not a fatality, um, shootings still leave such a deep
It's,
impact across the entire community. And that's, we've experienced that several times over the last couple weeks as well, even since that article. So I think, I get the alerts as soon as something happens, and it's still the same feeling every time of just my heart sinking all the way down. And um, I am so grateful to EMS and our um, healthcare and doctors and those in the ERs who jump right in, the trauma surgeons, and they literally are miracle workers and lifesavers.
yeah.
And certainly there's a lot of credit to go around to for our community policing efforts between BPD, Dr. Yablo's shop, neighborhood associations, faith leaders, our street workers, all the various people that come together every single week to make sure that we are as focused on it when it feels quote unquote quiet as we are when it feels very urgent. And so I think that's been a real shift in how the city has been hoping to address this. It's not just during the summer that we all of a sudden get everyone together. It's not just in certain periods. We are holding a whole coalition of neighborhood organizations, community leaders, people with feet on the ground, and city departments every single week, no matter what is happening. And I think that has been affirmed in some of what we've seen. We're not there, and we know that it just, in some ways, it becomes more intense every year as well because of the availability of guns
Yeah.
and all the different technology that can be attached to guns to make them higher capacity or to make them do more harm. Um, we know that there's just in the world around us, sort of outside Boston, outside Massachusetts, things can feel quite intense at that moment. And it just goes to show how much all of the many pieces that the city's working on end up fitting together. It's really, of course, public safety is kind of at the core of what we really describe as community safety.
Right.
So are public parks and libraries and BCYF staying open late nights with programming Friday nights and having concerts and open streets and block party grants and all of that. I really, summer jobs, it all fits together. And so when we say safety, we aren't satisfied with safety just meaning, numbers going down or a lack of harm or violence. Safety really should mean full joy, right? Being excited, knowing your neighbors, coming outside to go to special events that are happening, creating your own sense of community and belonging and home. And that's what we strive for.
It is, it's a lot. And when the 4th is tomorrow. Some years ago we had the fireworks task force, which I had mentioned to someone that might stick around. It's not as bad, but still it's interesting. And so under the cover of the fireworks, it's just very interesting tonight. And so hopefully, BPD is equipped, but also those neighborly things that help with violence. And so it's another one of those cyclical things. And Mayor, you talked about, community and coming together. And there is a community of folks that need a lot of services. There was, as you referred to, not necessarily, it wasn't a victory lap, but it was a citing of the impact of some of the individual work that has happened on Mass and Cass. Now, you have named, I had to tell someone yesterday, last time we talked about Mass and Cass, you saw a little bit going on. Seasons change. You named it with the season change. But Mayor, I inboxed a couple of folks the other day and was like, I came off the highway and almost every corner, it's very interesting. And I haven't been able to observe Atkinson because you're driving and you just, you can't see, but I guess that does say it may not be as concentrated there, but Mass and Cass is looking very interesting this summer. Where are we? Things kind of went well, wasn't as dense. Now it's interesting. And I gotta say, Masson Cass and Nubian Square, because a lot of people have said that Nubian Square is the black and brown, Masson Cass. And so where are we with that to get back to a point where things seemed like we were on a better road?
Yeah, and I want to pull up some of the numbers. Just again, not that numbers going down is the end of the story, but just for a little sense of context. So our teams are still going out every single day and making sure they're building relationships and knowing who is in need of which kind of services, and they are still very deeply intertwined with the community there. And so, let's see. Last year, June 2023, it was concentrated on Atkinson Street, and the crowd counts that we do daily in June ranged anywhere from 130 people to well over 200 people. This June, so far, the crowd counts have ranged from 30 people to 90 people. But as you're saying, it's no longer sort of one spot tucked away on Atkinson Street. People are making their way around, and we know, it's interesting, the numbers that have been given, we need to have more accurate counts on this front, but there are some estimates from our team that the vast majority of people that they are seeing either near the connector or in other parts of the area are housed, right? And so we know that, some of the residents or some of the people who are gathering are actually staying in the low threshold housing that the city's providing with services. Some people are in shelter, and their names are attached to certain beds that are there. And so a lot of this is daytime community gathering space. And when you are in the medical throes of needing to find a way to continue substance use because of the medical condition, a lot of it is seeking where that next access comes from. And so we're very aware of that and wanting to provide safe community gathering space, working with some of our organizations to do that in a way that, because no one agrees that just sort of congregating for drug trafficking or use just out in the on the street is the safest way for anyone. And we did see overdoses go up in Boston over the last year, concentrated in Black and Brown community members, and
particularly Black men. There's a high rate of Black men.
Absolutely. So we're working on a couple different parts of the plan specifically tailored for warmer weather. One is to ensure that we are providing the right spaces and working with organizations to do so. Two is to ensure that there is appropriate enforcement coordinated among the different public safety agencies. Sometimes being at the connector is because state police has jurisdiction, and there's a little bit of a back and forth. Is it BPD? Is it state police? Et cetera. And so we really are coordinating and just making sure everybody is on the same page. And then we're thinking about how we continue to, some of the low threshold beds that have been really key for us, either at the sort of places where couples could go or other beds that the city have been working with the state on. The state has ended the funding available for that. They're under a lot of financial constraints. And so where we can, we're trying to either supplement with some of the funding that has come through the opioid legal settlements, or work with the nonprofits in the area to really support them in working through that.
Mayor, two things there, and I want to shout out because they're not visible on Instagram, and it's so funny to me that you be in the comments. But Rochelle, I know who that is. It's not interesting. She said it's horrible. I thought someone was dead laying there as I drove by. This may speak to the jurisdiction, but I've observed this as well, Mayor. Some of our law enforcement have a presence, and we know that presence is good sometimes, and depending on situation or what it is, but there has been sort of this thing of why aren't there, and I know that there's the humanity piece. You refer to the fact of this medical condition, substance use addiction, but there's the public safety piece, and there's always this fine line of balance, between the two, harm reduction and things like that. But how are folks allowed to gather and migrate like that. And when law enforcement does engage, that because I've heard that some of the folks were saying, we're not going nowhere. I had got some chatter about that. And so that balance between that, and then the other thing I'll ask you to speak to, we got to give sensitivity not only to residents, but I was asked yesterday by a clinician to ask those that are out there servicing, similar to street workers. We used to talk about self-care, clinical supervision. Can you speak to the public safety a little bit? And then also with that settlement grant, and it's interesting because we're going to talk about the budget next. There's a settlement grant, but at the same time, the pandemic federal money that was supporting the needle. So interesting segue to our next subject. So public safety, the balance of the humanity, and then also thinking about those that are, you talk highly of those that are out there. What's being done? I was asked to ask what's being done to support them, because a lot of them come with their own, they're effective because they come with their own trauma. Mm-hmm. So you get the context.
Yep. And I will say that I think one foundational principle we have on our team is that it always has to be public health and housing driven. And of course you need public safety enforcement because we're talking about a situation that deals with laws and needing to change certain behaviors around where things are happening and what's happening. But we never do enforcement without that partnership with public health. And so with the ordinance, for example, that was passed that really allowed us to better incorporate public health, public safety, and housing together, there have been, it's the ordinance around tents. There have been dozens of now instances where that ordinance has been invoked to say this is not a space where we can set up a new encampment, and no arrests have needed to take place in that. So the conversations, because there's been such frequent contact and direct public health relationships and housing relationships with folks on the ground, that it hasn't been, there haven't been any instances where law enforcement has been the only interaction that people have had. It always goes hand in hand. Yeah. I will say even on the needle pickup program, so it's really more of a shift. I would say, I think the article that came out portrayed it as ending of a program. The mechanism before had been people would get paid for every needle that they brought in. And that was an incentive to have more hands getting needles off the streets or bringing their own or whatever it was. But it kind of recognized that there's a benefit, a harm reduction benefit from people having more interaction with those who can then connect them with resources. But often we were also hearing that just that pure cash exchange sometimes was just leading to further feeding the condition. And so we're actually transitioning that program to a different one that models something that's worked really well in the Madison Cass area, which is a jobs program. And so it won't be a free-for-all of anyone who brings a needle can get 10 cents or whatever it is, but a group of people who want to dedicate themselves to being part of the cleanup crew, or in this case, learning how to properly and safely pick up needles and participate in that, then are on payroll to be able to do this. And we've seen this happen with community members who have come off of living on the streets, participating and getting paid for being the cleanup crew, picking up litter and other debris in that area. And that's been one of the most successful pipelines that we've had to permanent housing and getting people on their feet. When you have a little bit of an income source and you have direct daily interaction with people who know how to find housing, know how to get counseling and everything, that's been a really important program, and we're trying to transition that one. And then I think overall, it's such a big situation. We still continue to see people coming in mostly from outside the city of Boston, although it's certainly not everyone. But there's this sense that we have to, when we do this, we're trying to be a model for the rest of the region and or the country. But we do hope that every city eventually steps up and provides some sort of services as well.
I'm sorry, Mayor, because that I know where you were going with that, and anyway, thank you for that update. And you may have spoke to it a little bit, but also just speaking to you give high regard to the work, but what's being done either through the commission or other partnerships to support somebody that
Oh
has
yeah,
this
absolutely.
history.
Yes.
And there are I interviewed a Lyft and Uber driver recently that carries Narcan because they've come into the area. That's traumatizing. And so what's being done for the workers, and then inadvertently random people that just see somebody and happen, and it's a majority of the workers and folks that move in that space. But can you give us about 30 seconds, because we're running down and I don't want the team to kill me.
Yeah, I would say it's very broadly. It's really not even just the public health and street outreach workers who are most directly interacting and building relationships, which can be a very personal connection
which is
and
good in some respect too. That can be good.
Yep. Yep, and making sure that there's resources and space and the team to be able to work on all that and handle and process and kind of keep each other accountable for self-care.
Yep.
But we have more and more police officers who are just assigned for visibility, who also have had needed to make sure that we're providing training on not just what to do and how to interact with someone who either lives with mental illness or substance use, but also how to recognize the signs when you yourself need to just kind of take a step or a breath and seek some services as well.
Yep.
And now that the crowds are a little bit moving around to different places, we have heard from restaurant workers in the area, others. So there's we know that this is a challenge for everyone in the community. And ultimately, we believe that if we get to the root causes of providing support person by person by person, then we can be a different model of how to actually support people rather than just continuing to push everyone from place to place and then also pushing the impacts.
That's real, Mayor, and I appreciate that community support. I almost took a sip when you said law enforcement, just based on some of the fact of having a presence versus getting out, and it is very interesting. And hopefully next month, because I think it was in October, I asked this specific question: Mayor, the cyclical of Massicass, what's the off ramp? And oh boy, after that things got very well, and so hopefully things will progress. You did before say that things were changing. So in the beginning here, you talked about numbers. You talked about budget, the federal needle exchange, the change. Thank you for that clarity. Legacy and major media. This is why we have these conversations anyway. The city budget, that and Massicass were the two top inboxes that I got the last couple of days. And so one of them is the Better Budget Alliance. You did give some clarity before, and I had to remember, this is through legislation. This is the first fiscal year in which it is active at the amount of $2 million. I saw the reel yesterday with the participatory, I said it right, the participatory budgeting. Folks can email, folks can call for our seniors and stuff who are on social media or, emailing. So that's good. My one question, Mayor, is what is it that you would say to those that cited the $38 million variance between requested versus what was given?
Yeah. Well, actually, I think if my understanding is still right, it should be $4 million at this point because there was the two from before rolled over. So we haven't been, it didn't disappear.
This is why clarity. I'm sorry, Mayor, because I remember I did some research last night.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I remember
it's two a year. It's been two the last couple of years, but because it didn't get started before, it just kind of added up together.
So for clarity, how do you speak to the 30?
Yeah. So I think, well, okay. So, and this gets to kind of the larger budget question also. There is this sense that, the city has so much money and we can do anything and it'll always be there. And, now that I'm in this role where I have to actually count all the little beans that we have and
say something, because I've said this to somebody, and this is no cap. I don't care if you see this cap and whatnot, whatever. You can say all that you want to say before you get in the office. You want city council, that's wonderful. It's a different purview and lens. You're laughing, but
when every officer that is at Massicass that we need above and beyond the kind of sort of standard staffing levels to cover the entire region around. We want them concentrated at Mass and Cass. That is additional staffing overtime that comes out of our budget. And
we don't like BPD and overtime in the same sentence.
And that, I'm talking about the annual reports just came out around how much was actually paid out to different employees and who were the highest earners. And the reality is that there are certain categories of overtime that we're seeing some progress in managing better because medical leave is down and some of the contract reforms are going into place. And then certain categories like managing for large special events, we increased the number of open streets. We've had more parades and celebrations. And then we also added more at Mass and Cass. And so that definitely has an impact. And so I'm thinking about all of these because my job, first and foremost, is to make sure our city workers get paid, that their family members have food on the table, and that they are supported in doing the jobs that support everyone else in the community. And so, first of all, we are in a little bit of a more uncertain economic time than we have been in years past, right? The pandemic is a little bit.
Can you clarify for the people in the back? You said more of a certain or uncertain?
Uncertain. More of an uncertain time.
I was curious. Ooh, okay.
No, more of an uncertain time. And again, maybe there's nothing as uncertain as the pandemic, so it's hard to kind of gauge. But let's say 2019 and before, there was a lot of revenue coming in, a lot of economic activity. Interest rates were extremely, extremely low for people to buy a home or to borrow money to build new housing. Now interest rates are at what's been at a 22-year high for a very long time, and that has a ripple effect. Plus the downtown, all the conversation about how office buildings are changing around the country and how does that impact the value? Are they all going to suddenly crash in their value? And then the property taxes that they pay go down, and then we're in trouble and in a cycle, blah, 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 blah. So some of this we'll have a better handle of even in the next couple months as the city's assessing department is going through and doing that. But because we've seen what's happened with the state budget, right? They've had significant challenges coming in under projected revenue collections, and they are tightening way back as well. We just have to be very careful. And so this budget cycle, even before we got into proposing the budget, we really told most departments this isn't a growing year, right? This is a year where when you have new plans, we have to do this out of the funds that we had and we're repurposing, and we want to protect and maintain and improve, but we are not in a growing phase in the economy right now. And so I'm not saying that this to say that, participatory budgeting and how much we put to that is always a choice. There's always going to be so many other priorities, and putting the value in having the really, the fullest kind of democratic participation in our budget, I think is priceless, right? So we want to make sure it's funded, it gets off the ground. But there's a lot of considerations to balance right now. And that's why this budget year with the council, I think, ended up feeling a little bit more tense as well, because it really was a bit of we were holding the pie in a more limited way just to be sure we could be as careful as possible for the uncertainty ahead.
Mayor, I fight being a journalist, but something clicked to me, and I got to ask this question based on what you said. And you move nationally. We're going to talk about national politics in a second. If I'm hearing you correctly, one, you clarified, there's nothing like once you get in seat, that lens is, I can see clearly now, the election is gone. Do you think that we're headed toward a recession?
So, okay.
I'm listening to you, and I'm listening, and I'm like,
okay. I want to say this because I think Boston also has a bit of an echo chamber where we are really hard on ourselves. And I was just having this conversation with a group of people in the business community where the data that you look at has Boston at a much better place than basically any other city. We already talked about public safety. There's no comparison to us. And that's a major factor of how people make decisions about where to live, where to grow their business. Our vacancy numbers are the fourth lowest out of major cities that are similar to us. And that counts Cambridge too. So if we count us as kind of a region together, we're doing pretty well. Many of the industries that we count on tend to be more in person anyway. Hospitals, life sciences and
Okay.
labs and
Yep.
all of that.
Yep.
Foot traffic is steadily growing. Public transit, ridership, commuter rail ridership has had one of the fastest increases in Massachusetts compared to the rest of the country. And so even though it feels like, we still see vacant spaces, we're actually doing a lot better than other places. Now, that's not our standard for how we judge ourselves.
Yep.
So I don't think we're in an imminent crash or doom loop. But because we can't be sure exactly the scale of
That's
what's
what
going to happen, we have to make sure we're being cautious now.
So you're again, and I wasn't speaking to you just to Boston. You're the mayor of Boston. That's your city priority. I get it. But I was really asking the context of nationally. I know you have, an ear to what's going on and whatnot. And so it thank you for the clarity to Boston, because I'm listening to what you just said there. And Mayor, we got to move on because I don't want them to kill me. But this is a good trend, and clarify anything there that you want, because
Okay. Last thing I'll say on that nationally is that there's a number of things, and I'm not an expert on national financial policy, but the Fed, which sets the interest rates, has been doing a pretty good job of keeping inflation down, right? That has actually come down, not as fast as we would like, but
right.
That we have to control costs for residents to go to the grocery store and this and that. Meanwhile, it hasn't come at the expense of job loss, right? A lot of people are still finding jobs. It's still a pretty active job market. Our unemployment in Boston is way lower than the state and far below what's at the national average. And so I think we're seeing some of that kind of counterbalance the other potential negative economic impacts that are swirling. And so the fact that people are still working, still able to find jobs, really offsets a lot of that.
Okay. I almost hear you talk about that. I will be here another day, but I hear you say that. I just want to hear your opinion on this whole, and I know you on social media, this whole black jobs thing, but we won't get there. I did see.
Let's talk about the debate.
I seen Chief. We're going to get into national politics, but I seen Chief Itawu flexing a little bit, and I gave some commentary around the fact numbers are undeniable. And, there's this thing of, the mayor doesn't care about the black community and whatnot. One of the greatest things that you can see someone's commitment to the black community is wealth. And that brother got some numbers. And so we'll talk. Maybe we need to get him on here. Mayor, spoke to national politics. Thank you for giving kind of off, and nobody's texted me yet. So I'm going to hold you until I get a text of drop dead. Lot going on nationally. You are on the national scene for many reasons. You also observed the Supreme Court decision some months ago. We talked about this assertive, aggressive effort of taking out Dr. Gay. There's some energy towards you. All politics is local. Caught some things in the air that, just like the folks nationally are trying to do their Project 25, there's a couple of white males in this city that got their own version of Project 25. Take out the Asian, fluently Spanish-speaking woman. National politics, Supreme Court decision. I'm going to again ask you on a national, and I can hear the media now. Mayor Michelle Wu speaks to national politics. Is this a purview into her? Sorry, that ain't where I'm going, but I know you can speak to it, and it's a concern. We talk about trauma. It's a concern for a lot of folks. Your thoughts on that, ma'am?
Yeah, it's just, it's been one hit after another. And I think in some ways the worst ones haven't even gotten as much attention because there's been so much focus on the immunity decision and some of the kind of more juicy ones. I mean, I think all you have to do is read Justice Ketanji Jackson's dissent to understand how
as well, Mayor. Shout out to the Queen, but Sotomayor's, both of them black and women.
But there's one I want to mention, this Chevron case.
Yes. Yep.
Which really is, it basically said, before there was a principle where if Congress passed a law and they weren't exactly specific about how to make it happen, but they made clear what was supposed to happen, then it was up to the executive branch to decide how to fill in the details of that, right? Yep. And now they have basically reversed that to say, and that was how a lot of environmental regulations happened, a lot of protective
climate justice is in that. Yep.
So now they say, well, we're not going to give Congress, we're not going to give the administration or the executive branch the benefit of the doubt in interpreting and filling in the details. Each court system is going to be able to decide if they have overstepped and are following Congress's intent or whatever. And it's just a really stressful time because Congress isn't really doing things right now that are getting to specifics and working together on coming up with compromises that can move things forward. And so when that's been taken away, now it gives tremendous power to the corporations that don't want anything to happen at all. And
especially around taxes.
It hasn't gotten as much attention in the context of everything else that's come out, but it just, all of what this says is that it's more responsibility on states and cities to step up and make their own policies and create their own example communities.
All politics are local. Mayor, last question. How important it is? Oh, they're going to kill me. Let me get the summer program. Are you making phone calls, as I'm going to that, are you making phone calls and going to other parts of the country where they may be purple and red strongholds and encouraging folks to get out? Because democracy is on the line. They're going to kill me. You touched on a little bit. I always like to end on a good note. You know what this time of year is for me. You know, this is my I'm about to be out of here. Summer programming. Mayor, there's a lot going on with parks, summer grants. Shout out to Brother Darnell and others, poetry in the park, different things happening. Dr. Yablo has been moving around this park piece. Talk to us a little bit about summer programming, and you're a little bit of a DJ. There's something dropping today. I mean, shout out to Matt, aka John.
Okay, that had nothing to do with, first of all John Borders in the team, but I will take credit. Okay, so I'm going to pull up so I don't get this wrong. We have expanded open streets, and the ones that are left are Roxbury this weekend. Hold on, where is this in the?
We got JP coming up soon. Shout out to Shauna Bryant, consultant, and her team. I've seen the flyers everywhere.
Okay, I will find it as we talk. We have more programming in the parks than ever before with our park arts programs. It's movie nights, it's yoga, it's learning how to ride a bike, swim lessons, a lot happening. Okay, I got it here.
Shortage of lifeguards. We need people to hit BCYF for lifeguard training, correct? Are we good with lifeguards?
We're good with lifeguards this year, but come on in. We need to build the pipeline. They've done a great job.
Okay, shout out to Chief Mosso.
Okay, block party kits are available, so everyone can actually borrow some supplies. It comes with games and things like that. BCYF, there are 4 locations that have late night events and nighttime programming, and then open streets, Blue Hill Ave this Saturday, Harvard Ave and Brighton Ave in Austin Brighton in August, Dorchester Ave in September, and then East Boston in October. Open Newberry is running on Sundays between July 2nd and October 15th. Anyway, our goal is we want everyone to have as many choices to have fun and get to know their neighbors and just experience opportunities as possible. There's a lot happening on the arts side, on the sports side, youth sports side. So look up what's going on, tell your neighbors, get other people involved. And most of it is free and open to anyone. And we want to maximize how many people come and participate.
Absolutely. Last thing is Dear Summer Volume 2. Shout out to Matt Borders and everybody. Shout out to Amandi and so many other artists that are on there. We do have an invitation into you, Mayor. I just seen Covered by Music jump on Instagram. So while they're here, I'll just mention it. Have an invitation. One of the kids' birthdays that weekend, but Covered by Music, along with Marcus Jones is a part of it. Keithan Foster and Kerjan Freeman have an intensive summer program for young people around music, engineering. There's workforce development there. There is so much there. And so we had that in. Phyllis and them are going to work the magic, but you're a mom, Mayor. And so if you're not able to make it, we've asked for alternative. But Mayor, we'll see you in August. But this is, I'm going to say, have a good summer. We'll see you at Gospel Fest and around and what. I know you got a commitment. Get off of here. Michael, Jessica, Phyllis, and everybody, I appreciate y'all. Mayor, give Connor and the children my best. And thank you so much for such an in-depth and clarity to conversation today. This is important to community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Great to see everyone.
All right, hon. Bye-bye. Mayor got out of here. She don't never jump out that quick. So again, shout out to Michael and the team and everybody for that was one of our most intense sessions with the mayor. Anthony is in the building. Such a good answer. Sometimes we let perfect be the enemy of good. And Corey, who's going to get me? Mayor Wu, thanks for showing up everywhere. Literally have a presence everywhere. That's a very Boston thing. Corey's from the old school with Mayor Menino. That's a very Boston thing to do. We appreciate it. Neighborhood accessibility is critical. What's up, Jimmy? Corey, I know I owe you a phone call, and we got to get this 20-minute documentary that we did a year ago with the Boston Public Health Commission around young people. Yes. I am getting ready to get off of here, everyone. What did covered by music, the application. Don't forget, people, let me go back to one thing. Shout out to Matt Borders and folks. If you listen to this, go to this link, all lowercase. It's a quick link, jwj.info/Dear Summer. If you listen to the tape, you might recognize a familiar voice on there. Shout out to Matt Borders and the team over at Special Events. I don't know what they're called now. Arts, Tourism, and Special Events when I was in the mayor's office 17 years ago. No announcements. We will be back on Monday at 9 a.m. Next week is Quick Shots. To anyone that's reaching out around anything new or whatever, this is the season of D&D and off. My mother knows how to reach me for extreme emergencies. Any urgent things as far as the team and urgent things with the team and business. Of course, anything that's time sensitive, team is on it. But we're out of here. It's officially break in the Java Cafe. We will be here in the mornings, but that's it. Don't call. Folks, the current projects that I'm working on, y'all know. You know how they say no new friends? Y'all know this break is much, in all seriousness, this break is much, much needed. And so I appreciate everyone that understands that. Reach out to the team if you need anything extreme. Those that I'm having direct communication with for some time sensitive date things, we're good. But also, if I don't get back right to folks for the next few weeks, please don't take it personal. I want to come back and be a better Java, Lord Jesus, a better Jimmy, a better James, a better Jimmy. And I need to take some breaks. Free. Yes, sir. I see him commenting there. So thank you all for your understanding for that. And we're going to be on our way out of here. OB is in the building over on IG. I also want to appreciate a good brother. He is largely responsible. And this is some of the biggest viewership that I've had in a long time. Close to 300 people are currently watching right now. I have to shout out the good brother, Real Boston Media, that shares this on Twitter, that retweets it often, even though he's critiqued me about some of the staleness of this model and not face-to-face. He's a critiquer. He's an encourager. He's a little brother. He's a brother's son. And so I want to give him his flowers and celebrate him for all that he's doing around community and also social media, entertainment, and whatnot. So celebrating him and others that support this platform, the Davis system, Anissa. So yeah, this is sort of my vacation sign-off thing. I will say a couple of other things. I definitely will. Susan, good to see you in the room. I know my mother and Anthony never going to, what's he about to say? I've learned a lot this year. And we cannot allow ourselves to be held captive by other folks' opinions and thoughts, ideas and suggestions and critiques. One, if we're not in community and engaged, come with your unsolicited opinion, and that's fine. It's community driven or something, or James, I think you need to do better. I got called out a few weeks ago about having a guest on. Good with the information. Model, no. Be comfortable in prioritizing yourself as long as you know that at the end of the day, you can walk past that mirror and not convicted by Jesus about anything that you did that was immoral, hurt someone, or devalued someone. 40s was amazing. But these past 2 years of 50, let me tell y'all something. I'm becoming so comfortable in who I am, in realizing who I am. There's some things I've learned, but this year is different. This break, a couple of people have told me, you have surgery and have to spend a week with yourself. I did that 2-hour show with Simone that raised a lot. And first of all, Free, don't be calling me. When people over 30 call me uncle, I have a problem with it. Maybe that distraction was good because I was going to go somewhere. Boston is a very interesting place to build, to sustain, and maintain things. And these last couple of years have taught me so much, first about me, but secondly about people. And people are going to be people. And I'm going to be me. And if your peopling does not encourage me, does not build me, and somewhere in it, there's no identification of us coming together. I can get over a little bit of personal if I know at the end there's going to be a good outcome for a community. I can kumbaya. I don't do it as much. But I'm not going in spaces and places with people. A lot of people like, Jimmy, we haven't seen you out in a couple of weeks and da-da-da. Nah, because I'm on a journey. And at this point, the assault, the verbal assault that would happen. So I know me and I'm doing better. And that's my little vacation, not being in therapy for a while, outlet. I'm going journal, but never. Georgie has been getting on me for months. I will always, and especially when it comes to the platform, get a pulse from community. Check out social media and conversations and get an idea of what's going on and where things are on certain subjects and whatnot. But I'm at a point, unsolicited opinion. I'm going to get off of here. Appreciate you, Asia. Miss Teresa, love you too. Live in your light and always be true to who you are as you are. If someone doesn't like you, it's their loss. Remember that you are divine and you uniquely you. It's not even that. Nicole's having a cookout tomorrow. Enjoy. I don't know if she wanted me to post that, but we got to get over people. And I mean, beyond a cliche, I don't care. Again, didn't finish my thought around, of course, don't hurt nobody and whatnot, and care about how people perceive the way you endear them in a relationship and current engagement. But when you just coming off the cuff with stuff and yo, the residue of the Holy Ghost that I do have is spare to many. All right, now I'm just throwing off. I'm getting off of here. Sis said, the people who find it so easy to critique people's every move are afraid to look in the mirror. Shout out to my sister, Dina. We need more love. Yes, we do, Nikki. At the end of the, listen, I'll end with this. I said this in 2020. Shout out to The Loop. Self-love is the best love. Shout out to Michael J. Holman for The World Needs Love. Y'all remember those two songs? I'll mess around and play them now. Y'all know I will pull that thing up and play it. Love is the foundational thing. We love humanity. We love equity. But sometimes when it comes to people, 52 years has taught me that sometimes you got to practice tough love, and sometimes you got to love from a distance. I love you, but I'm no longer allowing you in my space to hurt me. And the thing is, it's a different sting. I've been stabbed in the back, But when you've been stabbed in the chest, let that hit. It'll hit you. That's a different sting. So I just got a text. I guess that means I need to get off of here. I'm going to get in trouble. Uh-oh. Nope, I didn't get in trouble. Last thing I'll say is this, is we have to find a medium of balance of, I said that I knew that some folks I couldn't engage with because I would have ran up them one way and ran down them another. Old Jimmy. We have to balance the benefit of wisdom of sometimes the Bible says all things are lawful, but not expedient. Sometimes you don't react. You have to wait to respond to certain things. There's wisdom. But the other side of wisdom is you can't hold all that stuff in. And some people need to be reminded that you love them. We'll end with that. I'm going to get off of here. Uh-oh. All right. Anthony said he's about to call me. So that means it's time for me to get off of here. Listen, y'all know back in the day, my little posts and stuff, it was an outlet for me. That was therapeutic and cathartic for me. Phone ain't ring yet, so I might not be in trouble. Everyone, have a safe 4th of July to everybody that was in the Java Cafe for the first time. Do me a favor. I need you to hit that follow button. I need you to hit that share button. Come back in the Java Cafe. We always have information for you. We have some critique and some commentary for you often. This is a talk show. I'm not a journalist. This is the Java with Jimmy talk show. Uh-oh, Nikki said she's emotional now. Nikki, I love you. Don't let them, don't, Nikita. Oh God, I'm calling her by her government. Nikita, Sheree Nikita Winston. Don't let them people hold you and block you. This is a place for first-time viewers that you can come and hear commentary. You get information. We bring the mayor in here. We bring the governor in here. We bring Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley in here. We bring the Better Budget Alliance in here. We bring in people that are out in community doing work. We bring people in here that are artists. We bring people with stories and testimonies here in the Java Cafe. We would love for you to be a formal part of the Java family. There's only one requirement. You like, share, follow, comment, engage sometimes. Come out to some events we have coming later on this summer. We'd love to have you to be a part of the Java family. With that, everyone, have a safe new year. Be careful, hydrate, don't overeat, and love on your family this time of year. I was getting ready to get into a whole bunch of commentary about the 4th of July, but nope, I'm getting off of here. Love you all. And if my commentary offended anyone, it was not my intent, but some of y'all needed to be offended. Not for the afterward. Okay, I'm going. Did I say have a happy new year? Y'all know vacation kicks in tomorrow. Have a happy 4th of July, everybody. A happy new year. Well, it's a new fiscal year. Rhonda that's been in the city. You know it's a happy, well, it may not be that happy fiscally. All right, I'm getting off of here. My mama said keep it real. So, see, I almost cussed. All right, I'm going. Have a great day, y'all. Have a safe and happy 4th of July. Love all day, Obi. Obi said, who needs some? Listen. Let me get off of here. Peace.